7 most terrifying and disturbing serial killers. 7. Dennis Rader, BTK killer. Rader murdered 10 victims between 1974 and 1991 in Kansas, taunting police with letters. He was caught in 2005 due to a floppy disk trace and sentenced to 10 consecutive life terms. 6. Robert Hansen, nicknamed the Butcher Baker. Hansen hunted his female victims in the Alaskan wilderness. He killed at least 17 women before being arrested in 1983. 5. Israel Keyes. A U.S. Army veteran, Keyes buried kill kits across the U.S. for future murders. Arrested in 2012 after killing Samantha Koenig, he confessed to multiple murders before committing suicide in custody. 4. Joseph James DeAngelo, Golden State Killer. A former police officer, DeAngelo committed 13 murders and 51 assaults between 1974 and 1986. He was arrested in 2018 using genetic genealogy and sentenced to life in prison. 3. Dean Corll. Dubbed the Candyman, Corll murdered 28 young boys in Texas during the 1970s with the help of accomplices. He was killed by one of his associates in 1973. 2. David Parker Ray. Ray, known for his toy box, abducted and tortured women in New Mexico. Arrested in 1999, he was linked to over 40 victims but died in prison in 2002. 1. Edmund Kemper. The co-ed killer murdered 10 victims, including his grandparents and mother, in California during the 1970s. He is serving a life sentence. 7 most terrifying and disturbing serial killers. Part 2. 7. Ted Bundy. A charismatic killer, Bundy murdered over 30 women across multiple states in the 1970s. He was executed in 1989, though his true victim count is suspected to be much higher. 6. Ed Gein. Inspiration for several horror films, Gein exhumed graves and murdered 2 women in the 1950s. He was committed to a psychiatric hospital until his death in 1984. 5. John Wayne Gacy. Known as the Killer Clown, Gacy murdered 33 young men and boys, burying most in his home's crawl space. He was executed in 1994. 4. Jeffrey Dahmer. Dahmer murdered 17 men and boys between 1978 and 1991, committing acts of cannibalism and necrophilia. He was killed by a fellow inmate in 1994. 3. Albert Fish. Active in the early 20th century, Fish targeted children, writing gruesome letters to their families. He was executed in 1936 for his crimes. 2. H. Holmes. Operating during the 1890s, Holmes lured victims into his murder castle in Chicago. He confessed to 27 murders but may have killed over 200. He was executed in 1896. 1. Samuel Little. Confirmed as the most prolific U.S. serial killer, Little confessed to 93 murders between 1970 and 2005. Over 60 have been verified. He died in prison in 2020.